American Flight 4360, the disappearance. American Flight 4360 was a routine commercial flight that departed from Los Angeles International Airport, bound for Chicago O'Hare. It was a mid-sized Airbus A320 carrying 130 passengers and a crew of 6. The flight took off on a clear, calm morning with no sign of trouble on the radar. But about 2 hours into the flight, as the plane cruised over the Great Plains, something unusual occurred. The crew reported a sudden drop in altitude, followed by strange electrical malfunctions. The aircraft began to lose contact with air traffic control, and the onboard systems began to glitch. Then, at 2:03 p.m. local time, Flight 4360 completely disappeared from radar. A search and rescue mission was launched immediately, but no wreckage was ever found. The flight crew, passengers, and the plane were never seen again. The investigation. The disappearance of Flight 4360 became one of the most baffling aviation mysteries of the decade. Investigators scrambled to understand what had happened. Theories ranged from mechanical failure to a hijacking to something far more inexplicable. But no answers could be found. A surprising discovery. Years later, a journalist stumbled upon a series of classified documents detailing covert government experiments with experimental aircraft technology. These documents hinted at the possibility that Flight 4360 had crossed into an uncharted part of the sky, an area known for strange anomalies and electromagnetic disturbances. In one chilling document, there was mention of a trans-dimensional event where a plane had unintentionally passed through a tear in the fabric of spacetime. Could Flight 4360 have been the victim of such an event? Was it possible that the passengers and crew were still out there somewhere in a parallel dimension? The conclusion. The true fate of Flight 4360 remains a mystery. Some believe it was lost to a government experiment gone wrong. Others think it vanished into another dimension where time and space no longer follow the rules. As for the families of those aboard, the questions remain unanswered, and the legend of Flight 4360 endures as one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. American Flight 4360 into the unknown. On August 9, 2016, American Flight 4360 prepared for departure from Los Angeles International Airport. It was scheduled for a standard 4-hour trip to Chicago O'Hare. The skies were clear, with only a few high clouds drifting lazily above the tarmac. Passengers boarded with the usual blend of excitement, routine, and mild fatigue. Among them was an intriguing mix of people: a scientist on her way to a conference, a family taking a summer vacation, a businessman on a rushed schedule, and a young couple excited for their first getaway. The plane, an Airbus A320, glistened in the California sunlight. Flight attendants completed their final checks, and the pilot, Captain Lawrence Reed, a seasoned aviator with over 20 years of experience, ran through the checklist with his co-pilot, Eric Gibbons, a former military pilot known for his precise flying. Strange signals. Roughly 2 hours into the flight, as the plane cruised at 36,000 feet over Nebraska, something peculiar happened. Captain Reed noticed an unusual reading on the navigation display. The sensors indicated minor fluctuations in altitude and direction, even though the plane had been on autopilot, following a smooth path. He thought it might be a simple glitch and asked Gibbons to check it out. Moments later, the communications system crackled with static, cutting through the quiet. The plane's GPS flickered, momentarily losing track of their position, and the instrument panel began displaying erratic readings. Captain Reed attempted to establish contact with air traffic control but was met with dead air. He tried again, but the static only grew louder, drowning out his voice. Then, something even stranger happened. The passengers' experience. In the cabin, passengers began to sense a shift in the air pressure, as though the plane was descending rapidly. Some glanced out the windows, noticing a strange phenomenon. The sky outside had taken on an eerie, swirling quality, shifting from blue to gray, then to a strange shimmering silver. A low hum, almost like a distant vibration, filled the cabin, and several passengers described a sensation of heaviness, as though an invisible force was pressing down on them. Lily Martinez, an atmospheric scientist seated near the wing, was the first to notice the anomaly. She turned to her seatmate, a young man engrossed in his book, and whispered, "Something isn't right. I've studied storms for years, and I've never seen anything like this." Her seatmate gave her a confused look but said nothing. Lily pulled out her phone, hoping to document the strange sky outside her window, but the device wouldn't respond. The disappearance. At exactly 2:03 p.m., just as the sky outside had turned a pitch-black color, Flight 4360 vanished from radar. In the control tower, air traffic controllers panicked as they scrambled to regain contact. The pilot's last message, garbled and distorted, was nearly incomprehensible. It contained a few words that were later deciphered as descending. Everything's static. Sky's wrong. Emergency response teams were dispatched within minutes, and neighboring flights were rerouted. The search began within hours, sweeping hundreds of miles of terrain. Search and rescue teams combed the region for days, but they found no trace of the plane, no wreckage, and no signs of debris. The families of those aboard gathered at Chicago O'Hare and LAX, hoping for news. For days, the airports echoed with anxious voices and tearful reunions that never happened. Hope began to fade as the hours turned to days, then to weeks. The investigation. In the months that followed, the disappearance of Flight 4360 became the subject of intense investigation. The NTSB, military officials, and scientists from across the country gathered data, analyzing satellite images, atmospheric conditions, and the history of that flight corridor. They discovered strange spikes in electromagnetic activity over Nebraska at the time of the incident, but no one could determine what caused it. Some speculated that the aircraft had encountered a powerful electromagnetic storm, although such a phenomenon was virtually unheard of at the altitude they had been flying. One night, in the cluttered office of an aviation investigator named Tom Burrows, a new theory began to form. Tom was poring over old, declassified files from the 1960s that detailed Project Pegasus, a rumored experiment in the government's testing of teleportation technology. According to a few obscure files, electromagnetic fields in certain regions of the atmosphere could theoretically disrupt time and space, creating rips that could pull objects into different dimensions. A surprising breakthrough. 2 years after the disappearance, an unusual incident occurred that reignited the mystery. A commercial flight flying over the same route as Flight 4360 reported seeing a faint outline of an aircraft hovering in the clouds. The outline matched the description of Flight 4360's Airbus A320 down to the airline's emblem on the tail. The plane appeared almost spectral, semi-transparent, as if suspended in time. The pilots of the passing aircraft radioed in the sighting, and it was later confirmed that the radar had picked up an unidentified object that briefly registered as Flight 4360. But within moments, the ghostly outline vanished. In a last-ditch effort, the government reclassified the case, shifting it to a classified research phenomenon. Some documents were leaked, hinting at the possible existence of a time-space anomaly over parts of the Midwest. The theory proposed that Flight 4360 had passed through a rift, a portal into another dimension or time, where it was trapped. Where they are now. No one truly knows where Flight 4360 went, or if it might one day return. Those who believe in the ripple effect theory suggest that, in some other reality, the passengers and crew might still be flying, unaware of the rift they passed through. Others speculate that they are lost, floating between worlds, unable to return. Captain Reed's last garbled message continues to haunt investigators and families alike. In the final recording, when analyzed at lower frequencies, a fragment of his message can just barely be heard. Not alone. Something. Watching. Watching. Conclusion. The case of American Flight 4360 has become an enduring mystery, an aviation enigma that refuses to reveal its secrets. Some theorists argue it was a government experiment gone wrong. Others believe it serves as evidence of dimensions beyond our own. Whatever the truth, the legend of Flight 4360 endures a chilling reminder that not all who fly are destined to land.